Tonight, families voice their concern as their medical specialist, the last pediatric gastroenterologist, leaves the province. Also, a Regina man on long-term disability says he's drowning and unable to pay a city bill related to a sidewalk-clearing bylaw. Plus, the Riders introduce their new starting man behind center, veteran quarterback Trevor Harris.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, February 15th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. Saskatchewan is losing its only remaining pediatric specialist who treats liver and digestive issues in children. The province used to have 2 doctors in this field, but the other one left the province last year. Now, families are worried. Pratush Dayal reports.
You don't like garlic bread?
I do.
No, you don't.
I do.
3-year-old Blake Turnbull has been on a wait list to see a pediatric gastroenterologist for 2 years for an unknown tissue on her liver. The family was told the wait time could be 6 years. But now, the gastroenterologist, Dr. Simone Nickel, is leaving the province, so her wait is indefinite.
It's stressful and it creates a lot of anxiety.
Sarah Turnbull is frustrated and met with the health minister last year.
He said that it was a priority and that he was working on it. But that was when we had 2. Then we had 1 and now we have 0. So if you're going by the score, we are not doing better. We're doing much, much worse.
The Ministry of Health declined an interview but says recruitment and retention of physicians is a top priority. Dr. Nickel referred to the Saskatchewan Health Authority and it confirms she would be closing her practice as of May 12th, but would not comment on specifics due to privacy legislation. Some parents empathize with Dr. Nickel and says she was under a lot of pressure as the only specialist in the province. Both of Lisa Glein's daughters have a liver condition that results in horrible itching. She's worried their medicine supply could be disrupted without a gastroenterologist to write a prescription.
Without it, it was waking up in the morning with blood on her bed sheets from scratching and open wounds and scars and just really, it's a difficult thing to watch a child.
She says she foresaw this doctor shortage and looked out of province. Now she flies her daughters to the hospital for sick kids in Toronto.
This is not a new problem. This has been going on for years. We're always looking for new people. But the status quo isn't cutting it. It's not filling the gaps.
The SHA says it's working with other provinces to implement a remote service delivery plan. But the parents we spoke to say they don't understand what that means, whether they will be flown out of province or a doctor will be brought in. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatchewan RCMP are warning the public of dangerous illicit drugs making the rounds in southern Saskatchewan. Police have responded to 3 fatal overdoses in the last week in the towns of Assiniboia, Moosomin and Priestville. This comes after a deadly January in our province. The latest coroner service report shows 55 people died from suspected drug overdoses in January. That compares to 49 suspected overdoses in January last year. The number of drug overdose deaths in Saskatchewan's been on the rise since 2016 and jumped dramatically in the past 3 years. Those who provide services in the community say 55 deaths in January is proof more needs to be done.
That's 55 people that have been failed by our policies and our services. And, I don't know what it's going to take for the province to step up and say, we're not going to stand for this anymore.
There's a whole range of things that we might call a continuum of care. And unfortunately, we're very lopsided in Saskatchewan, where we've really invested in the treatment aspect of that continuum, but we have not adequately funded other resources and supports that individuals need in order to either access those treatment programs or before they're ready for those treatment programs.
RCMP are warning the public to never use street drugs alone and to always carry a naloxone kit. Nearly 1 week after a man died at a home in Regina's Washington Park neighborhood, police say they're investigating his death as the city's first homicide of the year. Last Thursday, officers were called to the home shortly before noon. They say they received information the man had overdosed. He was pronounced dead minutes after police arrived. Now, officers say their investigation has determined it is a homicide case. They are not releasing the name of the 36-year-old Regina man who died. Police are also not saying where in the neighborhood the home is located. 2 coroner's inquests into the stabbing rampage at James Smith Cree Nation and the village of Weldon will not take place until early next year. The Saskatchewan Coroner's Service says the delay is to give the RCMP more time. The mass stabbing on September 4th left 11 people dead and 18 more injured. The coroner's service had originally said it was looking at this spring or summer to hold the 2 inquests. One will examine the stabbings, while the other will look into the death of suspect Miles Sanderson, who died shortly after being taken into police custody. Today, the coroner's service said the RCMP needs more time to finish its investigation.
We've pushed every button we could to make sure that this inquest can happen as quickly as possible. But we can't run an inquest before we have the evidence, because the jury has to hear the evidence, and then the jury will make their recommendations and the finding of the manner of the death from the evidence that they hear at the inquest.
That's little comfort to Brian Buggy Burns. His wife, son, and cousin died in the stabbing rampage. He wants this to be over sooner rather than later.
There's hearsay from all these people, gossip and whatnot, and and I just want closure to it, to put my mind at ease.
The 2 inquests are now tentatively scheduled to be held in early January 2024. The commissioner of the RCMP is retiring. Brenda Lucky will step down March 17th. Based out of RCMP headquarters in Regina, Lucky was sworn in as commissioner in 2018, the first woman to take on the post full-time. In a letter today, she said she's accomplished a lot of her goal to modernize the service. She says there's increased accountability. She also said the RCMP has been addressing systemic racism and working to create a safe and equitable workforce. Lucky has faced criticism during her term. She was accused of political interference during the inquiry into the 2020 mass shooting in Nova Scotia. She also faced criticism over her performance during the convoy protest. Some Regina residents are being charged for sidewalk snow clearing, and they're not happy about it. The city's new bylaw gives people 48 hours to shovel, or else they'll be billed. And since November's heavy snowfall, that's been the case more than 120 times. As Jesse Anton reports, even the mayor says there's a problem.
If you don't clear your sidewalk and someone complains, the city can do it for you, and they can send you the bill. That's what happened to Al Bodnichuk.
Bodnichuk lives on this corner lot in the Cathedral area, and for medical reasons, he can't shovel himself.
I phoned them and told them, I don't have money to get somebody to do this, and I'm too sick to do it. And they said, well, you don't have a choice.
Bodnichuk relies on volunteers through the city-supported Snow Angels program to shovel his sidewalk, but the city wasn't satisfied with their work, so it sent out a contractor to clear the snow, then added $400 to his property taxes. He's been told he can pay it off in 3 installments, but since Bodnichuk is on long-term disability and a fixed income, he says he can't afford it, and he's worried he'll default on his taxes.
And if that happens, I will lose my house. I'll be homeless.
Ted Gilletta says city plows pushed snow onto his sidewalk in South Regina. It was too much for him to shovel, so he asked his city councillor to get the city to remove it, but then received a warning. Gilletta says he's worried he's also going to get dinged on his taxes.
If that happens, I don't have any choice. I'll be forced to seek legal advice.
In a statement, the city says the snow clearing bylaw is meant to create a more accessible Regina for everyone, whether someone's on foot, using a mobility device, or pushing a stroller. And the city says it does understand this might be challenging for some, and it suggests people ask family, friends, or sign up for a volunteer snow angel. But that didn't work for Bodnichuk. At least one city councillor agrees the Snow Angels program isn't working, and the mayor is ready to revisit it.
We're not participating essentially in part of our own solution, and I would hope that administration would come back with some recommendations going into next year.
In the meantime, Bodnashuk says he's still on the hook for hundreds of dollars. And Gilletta says he's anxiously waiting to see if he's next. Jesse Anton, CBC News, Regina.
After a disappointing 2022 season, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have hit the reset button. Today, the team introduced its new quarterback and said goodbye to a Regina boy. Adam Hunter has the details.
At his first press conference in Regina, the Saskatchewan Roughriders' new signal caller was all smiles. 36-year-old Trevor Harris signed a 2-year deal with the team.
A dream come true and something that I've always wanted, and you long for. When you come in the league, you invite the high expectations, the pressure, and those sorts of things. So couldn't be more elated to be here, and I'll never take for granted being able to be the quarterback of this franchise. And so I truly look forward to the challenge and the work ahead.
Harris said he's always thought about playing for Saskatchewan and is excited about what he and the team can build together.
I can promise you that they're going to get a team that's united, that loves one another, that's giving all-out effort, and we're going to have a culture of loving one another, a good brotherhood, and making sure that we're giving everything that we do. But the goal is to make sure that this organization, this province, this fan base is proud of this team on opening day, on Labor Day, and the Banjo Bowl, and most importantly, that third Sunday in November.
Harris looks to his left, now comes over the middle again.
The 36-year-old led the Montreal Alouettes to the East Division final last year. He's won 2 Grey Cups, including one with the Ottawa Redblacks in 2016. Riders GM Jeremy O'Day says Harris brings talent, consistency, experience, and leadership to Saskatchewan, and checked all the boxes for the organization.
You're looking for a good football player, right? You're also looking for a good person, someone that's high in character, that's someone that's had success in our league, someone that's has the ability to win football games for you. And obviously, he's done all that in our league and been a very successful quarterback.
Dan Clark, the center.
One player who will not be back is the longest-serving Rough Rider, center and Regina product Dan Clark.
Those are really tough decisions when you're having those conversations, but ultimately, when you have a season like we do, there's going to be change. There is going to be change, and those are the difficult decisions that we have to have. And obviously, Dan's been a great leader for us for a long time.
O'Day says the Riders have found Clark's replacement in the signing of former BC Lion Peter Godber. The GM says the Riders are done with their big-ticket free agent signings and will look to fill out the roster before training camp in May. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Well, the organizers of Regina's Frost Festival say the second annual event was a smashing success. Over 10 days, almost 89,000 people visited the 4 hubs. That significantly surpasses the first-year visits total, which was just over 68,000. One might argue that lovely weather we had for it certainly helped things along, and things are getting, frosty outside today. Snow and wind out there. Ethan will have the details in your forecast after the break. A Saskatoon writer is urging people to see and represent disabled people in a more nuanced way. He says too often stories center on one of 2 extremes, either an inspiration or a victim. John Lepke is behind our series on disability issues called Taking a Sitting Stand.
Traveling with Parasport tells you a lot about how folks view disabled people. When I was in Minneapolis, with the Canadian junior wheelchair basketball team, somebody asked me if I was on a Make-A-Wish trip. I said no, but that guy over there has had one. In Toronto, I was met with, wow, there sure are a lot of you people here today. And in Saskatoon, staff got my wheelchair stuck in the baggage scanner and a whole bunch of alarms went off. On this trip, lots of people were calling me a hero. Not because I was representing my country and not because I was a half-decent athlete, but because I dared to get out of bed in the morning and go fly somewhere. Activist and artist Stella Young called this habit of putting disabled people on a pedestal inspiration porn.
And when I was 15, a member of my local community approached my parents and wanted to nominate me for a Community Achievement Award. And my parents said, that's really nice, but there's kind of one glaring problem with that. She hasn't actually achieved anything.
Disabled people are often shoved into one of two categories. The super crip, a person who is assumed to have overcome their disability to accomplish great things, or the tragic, pitiable cripple, whose life is defined by how their disability has held them back. Wider society leaves us with little middle ground. We are not trusted with our own stories. We are often talked about or around, rather than being given the stage to speak our truth. There is endless media coverage that says we are overcoming or confined, a champion or a victim. What we don't have is the privilege of being boring. Our society believes that to live a wonderfully average disabled life is impossible. We're also tired of being first. Disabled people are breaking down barriers that never should have existed in the first place. And we're challenging perceptions that are still so damn persistent. Being boring is a difficult sell, but stereotypes are harmful. Be mindful of the messages you're consuming when it comes to disabled people. Ask them, ask me, what I bring to the world, rather than what you assume I'm struggling with. Call us heroes or zeros for the right reasons, and start to see us as more than caricatures.
This weather update is brought to you by the Capital Automotive Group. Trade and upgrade is on now.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. You know what's really special? How the snow just kind of hid the ice for me this morning. And then I almost, do what you do on ice and fall down.
And fell. Yes, I think a lot of people have been doing that over the past few days with this freezing and thawing, kind of a bit of a seesaw we're on. But I think temporarily that will be suspended because our temperatures are going to stay a little bit on the colder side, at least for the next little while. Bit of a temperature gradient through the province, still quite warm in the southwest near freezing. And then we have this Arctic air, which has actually triggered extreme cold warnings in northern Manitoba, which is making temperatures close to -30 in the far north of the province. And through south and central, we got really used to those temperatures at or above freezing over the past few days. So this might feel like a little bit of a shock to you between -15 and -20 in a lot of locations today, and especially in the far north with the wind chills close to -40. We will get close, but probably not quite into extreme cold warning territory, at least not tonight. And even in south and central Saskatchewan, those wind chills starting to drop now into the -20s in some eastern locations. High pressure keeping a lot of areas clear, still some lingering cloud cover and even some light snow in portions of southern Saskatchewan. That's going to start to move out through the overnight hours, still clear until we get to around tomorrow afternoon. I think south and central will have a mostly sunny day, but for the north, another low pressure system moving through, and it's bringing this warm front. So western sections, you'll get a nice warm up tomorrow afternoon, but Regina, even Saskatoon, points eastward, I still think will be a little bit on the cold side until that warm front moves through Thursday night into Friday morning when things really warm up. That low pressure system beginning to exit the province, and then Friday, a little bit of a system moving through southern Saskatchewan could bring a little bit of snow. For the north with that system, I think we're topping out around 5 centimeters, especially in eastern sections. 1 to 3 centimeters in the Churchill region. With that system, we're going to be seeing the winds picking up in southern Saskatchewan tomorrow afternoon, close to 40, maybe 50 kilometers an hour in some sections. But it's really going to start to pick up Thursday night heading into Friday morning when that next system heads through southern Saskatchewan. And that's where now we could see those gusts pick up close to 50. Overnight tonight, wind chills, as I mentioned, going to be close to -40 or -45 in the north of the province, close to -30 to -35 in eastern sections of south and central Saskatchewan, even as we head into tomorrow morning. A brief warm-up going to be happening Friday and Saturday in southern Saskatchewan, thanks to the little bit of a ridge building in. But then, as you can see, the polar vortex starting to drop south again. I don't think we're going to see the worst of it, but temperatures will be getting a little bit colder over these next few days. You'll see that cool down here on our 7-day forecast in Regina, where we will see partly to mostly sunny conditions, at least over these next few days. Winds picking up a little bit on Friday, as I mentioned, and then temperatures dropping to around minus 20, possibly even minus 25. And Saskatoon, we're going to be seeing a similar drop as well. Normal for this time of year around minus 6, and we'll surpass that these next 3 days. And then temperatures drop, mix of sun and cloud over the next little while. Yes, Sam, it's only mid-February. We still have a ways to go.
I know, but it felt like spring.
For a fleeting moment, it did.
For just a moment. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
A piece of Canadiana is turning into a wash this winter. The iconic Rideau Canal skateway in Ottawa has yet to freeze because of unseasonably warm weather. It's a problem for the city's annual winter festival and a disappointment for visitors. As Rafi Boudjikanian reports, there are concerns it could become a new normal.
This is about all the Shane Fields can do on the canal this year.
We usually skate with our grandchildren here, and it's a shame.
Just steps away at City Hall, lacing up is an option, though not the preference for Audrey Lockwood, who came from Nippo in Saskatchewan for her 80th birthday, sights set on the canal, settling for this.
There's so much hot air in Ottawa, it won't freeze.
How do you feel about all this?
Wonderful. I'm so privileged to have such good kids. Yeah, and beautiful weather. Yeah,
Perhaps a little too beautiful?
Oh, this ice is perfect.
Concerns about climate change icing out winter fun are hardly new to the body maintaining the canal. The National Capital Commission published this video 3 years ago, but it's the first time climate experts warn there may be no skating at all.
It's concerning, obviously. The Rideau Canal is a World Heritage Site.
The city says it's working on cutting down greenhouse gas emissions to do their part in the fight against climate change.
We're buying electric buses. We're doing some retrofits of city buildings.
The commission says it will see if the canal freezes enough to open for a short season, but that warmer winters are a trend, and scientists say it'll take more than the city acting alone to reverse it.
If we continue on the pathway that we're on, cities like Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto are going to have climates more like Philadelphia and Boston, where outdoor skating becomes one of those things you do sort of opportunistically only when you happen to get a colder than usual winter.
Back at the rink, it's the Mata's first Canadian winter.
If we learned well how to skate, of course it will be an experience to go on the canal because it's something special.
Their goal, to be ready for the Rideau next year. Fingers crossed, it's ready for them too. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather. Ice here will be freezing.
Yeah, I think you're going to have no problem getting on some outdoor rinks in Regina, especially over the next 24 hours or so. But you may not want to, because in Regina tomorrow morning, we're going to be sitting in a very cold wind chill around minus 33. Mainly sunny, seeing a little bit of cloud cover building in toward the noon hour. Wind gusts will be picking up a little bit as we head toward the afternoon. Saskatoon, we're looking for minus 18 tomorrow again, waking up to a wind chill around minus 26. Again, for a lot of us in south and central, temperature is going to warm actually through the afternoon and through the evening tomorrow as well. As Friday, we finally see some nicer temperatures. Now, we will leave you today with a blue jay that is searching for some very nice temperatures as well. CJ Lassard, she always sends us some great shots from up near Waskesiu. This one was shot from Elkridge. Obviously, a little bit of snow on the trees there as well. You know, the winter shots, Sam, always very nice, especially in the winter time. I love the little color contrast there too.
Beautiful, and makes me think of Blue Jay season, which is also just around the corner.
Yes, very soon.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ethan will be back with more local news tonight at 11. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.